You're watching Morning at NTV.
Welcome back to the number one breakfast show in the country, Morning at NTV. As usual, we have a slew of information right here on Morning at NTV. You do not want to miss what we have for you right now. Andrew Kagwa, an arts and culture journalist, is here with us. He's not alone. We also have the secretary for the Uganda Musicians Association, that is Fina Mugerwa, to expound on the leadership at the Uganda Musicians Association. Now get this, last year, September 8th, Waike Benda was appointed the president of the Uganda Musicians Association, and this followed the resignation of Sophie Gombia. Sophie Gombia at the time, she had wanted to pursue a career in politics. That's how Waike Benda became president of the Uganda Musicians Association. Since then, he was in a pot of soup. You had more artists who did not accord respect to Mr. Waike Benda, the Impaka Records CEO. You had Eddie Kenzo, yes, Eddie Kenzo, one of the artists. Also, Gravity Omutuju, who came out to actually question his ability to actually govern the artists within Uganda. Well, Waike threw in the towel around February, early February. He said, well, he was pursuing other things. He said the Uganda Musicians Association was not adding any value onto him. He was the one using his own fuel. He was using all the expenses from the Uganda Musicians Association were actually falling onto Waike Benda. So he said leaving is actually not, losing anything in that regard. So he's also saying a lot is amiss at the Uganda Musicians Association. So we want to know from the secretary, Uganda Musicians Association, Fina Mugerwa, what exactly is happening after a power vacuum was left behind. The deputy president, Cindy Sanyu, will she be taking over in acting capacity? And why is it that she's not being respected by the other artists within those circles? Fina Mugerwa and Andrew Kagwe, good morning.
Good morning.
Let me start with you, Fina. After the resignation of Waike Benda, there is a vacant position for the Uganda Musicians Association presidency. It's not vacant. You have an acting deputy president, Cindy Sanyu. What is the plan?
According to our constitution, in the absence of the president, a vice president takes over by default. So right now, Madam Cindy Sanyu is Her Excellency, the President of the Uganda Musicians Association.
So it turns out Waike Benda was actually pushing a car that had no fuel.
Why?
And he says Uma is the car that had no fuel. He's the guy behind pushing the car, trying to help it locomotive move.
Can you give me just a small description?
You get the analogy, Andrew Kagwa.
Can you give me a small description
You have
of
Uma
fuel?
being the car. It is the truck. So you have Waike Benda behind the truck. He's pushing it. He said he was putting a lot of energy into Uganda Musicians Association and it was not being reciprocated towards him.
But then that's very okay, and we really appreciate what he did. So far, Cindy is going to begin where he has stopped. So it is like a ladder. We climb one by one. So I know, and I'm very sure we're going to reach there.
So what really happened with Waike Benda? Mlangira Suna came out, he said this young man, we couldn't access him and so forth. Waike himself, he says, well, upcoming artists would actually find him, send him a WhatsApp and, try to make things happen. So what exactly happened? Where did the pull and push come from to lead to the resignation?
First and foremost, he talked to me personally. He had a tight schedule. As a secretary, I could always call him for some meetings. But he could come, but sometimes he would be engaged in some small things. And another thing, maybe he had his personal issue. You can't force someone to do something. But then I appreciate that he has done something ever since he came on the chair as the president. But then, according to me, leading artists is not very easy. It's not very easy. There are so many challenges in the leadership of artists. You have to stand. You have to stand as I'm standing. And I always tell them I'll stand. I'll stand with the leadership because I know where the ship is going. I see light there, but some people, actually, when you talk about the gravities, not everyone can like you. When you're moving and you keep stopping at dogs which bark at you, you can't reach. Yes. You can't reach. So it's not all about people saying we don't know, we don't want this. As long as you're the right track, just keep it.
So
focus.
You know where this track is going, but there's no fuel in this track, and that is the main contestation. That there's no money at the Uganda Musicians Association. And you're grappling with resources right there.
Right now, I'm very grateful that
what
Uganda
are the challenges there?
First and foremost, we have got a goal. You're also talking about Uganda Musicians Association.
Yes, yes.
That means you know its presence.
Indeed,
you know it.
indeed.
And another thing, the government is beginning to recognize Uganda Musicians Association. How? Operation Wealth Creation is willing to partner with Uganda Musicians Association as a body, apex body which takes musicians, and they have really asked for the budget of making the structure. So we are getting fuel.
Okay.
Yeah, to throw that in. Of course, I have Andrew Kagwa. He is an arts and culture journalist with the Daily Monitor. He always has some juicy details on such issues. Tell us.
Truth is, I'm one of the people that could contradict with everything.
Please go
I don't really think artists need associations. I think artists world over need more policies that work for them than they need associations, like policies from government. Because everything that artists are grappling with, everything that's forcing them to start associations, which most of the times do not work or do not serve the purpose they were formed, is because we lack a policy to actually address these things. I mean, let's think about it. Do we still remember the real reason UMA was started?
Yeah. Let me tell you one thing, Mr. Kawa. Why is it that journalists, you having an association, you need one voice for a common cause? You can't track a policy when you're scattered. But then when you're one as a team, you can track. You can track for that policy.
I believe the way journalists operate is completely very different from the way artists operate. Like, art is very spontaneous. I have to study to become a journalist, but I can wake up and I create a form of art and it becomes a cult, and I'll become an artist, a certified artist who is a journalist by the time we are talking right now. I'm a journalist, but in the next 1 hour, I might create an art form that might become spontaneous. So it becomes so hard to fix me into an association. Like, I mean, even when it comes to music itself, we've not defined the full music. Like, you know, Fina, when you were starting out, I believe there were people that were saying that what you're doing was not music. There are people that thought what Afrigo was doing wasn't music. And then Afrigo itself probably thought these guys that were doing Laga were not doing music. So that's how art is very spontaneous. Like,
so you feel like the Uganda Musicians Association doesn't have the capacity to handle most of the problems plaguing musicians, but rather have a policy that can do so. But let's break down what those challenges are.
We need policies.
But what are the challenges?
There are quite very many challenges. At the moment, I believe Ugandan artists do not have a work frame, if I could say. For instance, right now, it's sad that theaters are closed when cinemas are open, because someone somewhere is waiting for the president to specifically mention theaters as places that need to open.
Romeo, a point of information.
Right.
And point of clarification.
Go ahead.
If you're really asking for the work frame and you're telling us we should not come together for a common voice, who is going to create that work frame? And who is going to talk to the government for the policy? We need a voice. I'm disagreeing with you. Artists need a voice. And
but has the voice...
Even if it's
like, you and I know this is not the very first association.
Let's exhaust your pointer so that Finamugera might be able to understand.
One, this is not the very first association artists are formed. Like, artists have been forming associations coming out of spontaneous issues. Like, for UMA, one of the things I remember, initially it wasn't even about UPRS. Just that when they went to the meeting, UPRS became that whole thing they started talking about. But the very first time someone called me and told me about, like, Andrew, we need to save Ugandan music, it was a Saturday after two artists, it was Techno Mayus and Mr. Easy, had staged a concert in Kampala. There were two basically little known Nigerian artists who came to Uganda and staged a very big concert. And some artists saw there was a very, very big problem that had to be addressed. And at that time, one of the things they were saying was, save Ugandan music. Just that when they went to the meeting, other things came up and they forgot about the actual cause they had. And I still like the cause they came up with that ended up forming the whole UMA. But truth is, it is so hard to find a country that's operating with associations of artists because each and every artist thinks differently. But if you have a policy that works for them,
So besides the work frame, go ahead with the other challenges. She's noting
And
down.
for the
No, Aluka, wait, not. Go ahead. Besides the work frame, what are some of the other challenges?
besides the work frame.
Of course, I think we need to, when it comes to copyright, we need to break it down very well. Like at the moment, it's not working for the artists. And the reason it's not working for the artists is because most of the people that are trying to implement this are missing many of the places where they can actually get the money. And if you ask artists, I know you might say artists will need a voice to actually tell them where the money is, but artists might not even know where the money is. Artists might not even know where the money for their music is. But at times you just need even an economist who doesn't know anything about music to just look at this commodity and break it down in the way people are consuming it, and probably they can come up with the right channels. I think, but anyway, I will say what I've said in the beginning. We need policies that are working for the artists. This whole thing of wealth creation, having a budget for them, like how many artists can you budget for? Yet if you have a policy that's going to make things happen, everyone is going to benefit.
So, point of clarification. When you talk about policies, for example, when it comes to the world of lawyers, they also have associations.
Because there is something
First,
that...
wait, Andrew, they come together as a team for a common voice towards a common goal. We are coming together as artists to push our policies.
But who is an artist?
For example, it's me. Look at me. I'm an artist. And all the musicians there are artists plus other people who are creatives. This is a creative.
The question is, what makes one an artist?
I'm still talking.
Yeah.
Don't block me.
Go ahead, Fina.
So another thing, like, for example, and point of clarification again, WUMA started as a pressure group. Special thanks to Radio Mose, Silva Chagulanyi, the likes of Juliana Kanyomozi, Misa Chisemakula. They started as a pressure group. One problem with media, you always put artists down. You're the people to push us. We are a team. We should be like this. When we start something, please push us. Temutwaula. You're the people to push us. And we have your content, by the way. We have content. We give you content. Please.
But Fina Mugera, don't you think it's the artists dividing themselves?
It is not the artists.
You have a president right now, acting in that capacity, Cindy Sanyu. Cindy Sanyu has come out and she said artists are fighting hard. But she says out of the 1,000 artists with UMA, even though 600 vote for her, she doesn't care about the 400 because she already knows you cannot please everyone. Before we talk about the media, even the artists themselves are fighting amongst themselves. This another reason why Waiki Benda threw in the towel.
This goes to the...
It was being fought. Yes.
I told you one thing, I'm advising Madam Cindy, the president. If you're moving and you keep stopping at anything, shouting at you, you won't reach. If you know you're right, you're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing. Right now, the government is telling us that we want to deal with structures. Too much money has moved out of government to individuals, but in the name of art. We don't know who and for what. I can't be specific about that.
And most of the biggest reason is that most of the artists that go and get money from the government actually go as associations. Like right now, if I'm to get my notebook from the office, I think I could look at about 20 associations. There's one for producers, one for artists. I saw another one for upcoming artists. Like associations, at the end of the day, associations, if I could say in Uganda, again, a fuka deal, it becomes someone's deal.
But when it comes to UMA, it's not a deal. Okumanyanga said deal, we are not registered as a company. We are registered as an association. Special thanks to Silver Chagulanyi. But then I'm very zendi musanyufu. And we are getting recognized. We are getting recognized. Government tells us the more times we've engaged with them, they're telling us they want to deal with structures. Right now we've been, just that there is one point I want to put up to the government. When it comes to UPRS, to copyright, they are telling us copyright is there. They signed the law. Why hasn't it been implemented?
I can answer
All
that.
right.
The one reason as to why artists are like bitter. By the way, people wouldn't have gone to the government to be like telling them, give us some money. If there is policy for the copyright, if someone is getting paid for his content.
All right.
I can answer that for you.
We are going to first go and get an update on the COVID-19 vaccines that are getting into the country. And then we shall return with a question for you, Fina Mugerwa. Why are you having clamored to the government to reopen the arts industry in its entirety? I mean, students are going back. We've seen some other businesses being reopened. What are you doing to ask the government to actually reopen the arts industry? We shall get back to you after the update on the COVID-19 vaccines. We do know that the inoculations on the teachers, 550,000 teachers, shall be on Monday. But then Ivan Walanyolo has an update on the COVID-19 vaccinations that are coming into the country today. Ivan, good morning. Walanyolo, you're live on Morning at NTV. What's the latest where you are?
Well, Sandra, there is nothing as interesting as an aspirant coming to seek for your vote, but in the manifesto he talks about what you think is your challenge. A very good morning to you, and I am once again coming to you from the streets of Abaita Ababi here in Busiro South. In Busiro South, of course, we know that Peter Sematimba has been the member of parliament for a term running down, but seeking another term. He won the flag bearer for the NRM party. But of course, we want to seek, what does a local voice say about the expectations of these aspirants? What do they expect out of them? What do they need to talk about so that they win the votes of these common voices on the streets here? I want to start with the border riders. Yesterday and the other day we were talking about the fishermen, we were talking about and many other people, but this time we want to talk about the border riders who have had issues over the past. Seven Kwaniza, good morning at NTV.
Amanya gange Muhammad Kayuwa era nga mzo boda
chichi ya Muhammad twagala okumanya chichi oyo yesimbyewo oba president oba MP oba mayor kyabalina okwogerako okuwangula omutima okumuwa akalulu.
era fa abavuzi b'ebidduka tusookera ku nguudo enguudo ze zituli obubi nekya omulimu gwafe oguwa ekitiibwa ogwa boda tuweebwa kitiibwa ng'ababoda ng'ate boda liyalinga si abataasoma naye kati tumuna abantu abalina zi degrees abaasoma bonna bali mu boda baga tuvuga bubi kukubo naye batukolako nefujja abavuzi b'ebidduka mu bitalanga omutusobola okuyimiriramu naye twagala ebigwa mu tuluba ly'omuntu eyesimbyewo nga kyalina okukola kyalina okutukolera esooka z'enguudo yensonga enkati kuba pulezidenti kyetwagala okutonyawo emirimu bisanza ffe kuzisaamu ekitiibwa sanza ffe ziweddemu nnyo valiyo tezikyali mu kitiibwa.
Okay, webale nnyo okwogerako naffe ssebo.
Kale ssebo.
Well, we are having a week running down since
All right, we do humbly apologize for that clip. It's not the right one. As we sift through the other clips to get the right one, let's get into this conversation and move on. Andrew Kagwa, an culture journalist with the Daily Monitor. Fina Mugerwa, she's the secretary, Uganda Musicians Association. How far with your calls to government to reopen the arts industry, Fina Mugerwa?
We've had several engagements with the government. First, we contacted the union for the creative arts for a voice, because the union always speaks louder to the government. We got we had some peaceful demonstration. We wrote letters to the PS. He met us. We also met with Dr. Diana at the Ministry of Health. So they told us we prepare a document regarding how we can observe the SOPs. On 29th, we sent the document. 29th December 2020, we sent a document on how we had prepared to do our shows. They've never replied. So I'm asking the government and the Ministry of Health if you have not really cared for the musicians, people are not doing well. And we have not cared about going back to stage. The real places where masses are carried out, church services, they are the very places where people go for shows. Let us identify some small places like theaters, where we can observe the OPs so that people go back to stage and get something to eat.
And
some people have been catered for regarding stimulus and relief, but for the artists, nothing has been done.
Even the teachers did not get the money. The private school teachers and so forth did not get the money as schools reopen. Seems like not only you as musicians, other people are also grappling too. But then the issue of policies. Is this the part where it comes through?
Yeah, because personally, I'm one of those people that believe without shows, one of the ways artists could be getting money would be through commissioned works, would be through their copyright working for them. And just to go back on what you were asking, why the copyright is not being implemented. The thing is, copyright is very fluid at the moment. When copyright becomes fluid, it means you and I are possible pirates. Like you're going to find yourself with a song you didn't download, but someone sent it to a WhatsApp group you are on. And so by default, you're consuming a song without paying for it. And how do we deal with that? How we deal with that is by widening the basket. Something I said earlier that we need to widen.
Because UPRS is getting over 100 million.
Yes, but it's not even collecting. It's not even collecting enough because they do not know other places to get the money. Like I do not know why a phone comes to Uganda and a percentage of it doesn't go directly to UPRS, because that phone at the end of the day will carry music, whether legally or illegally, but somehow it will carry music. A flash disk, I don't know how many flash disks get into this country. And if each of those had at least a percentage, like all these things could be done by policy without an association, and people would collect that money at this time when they are not really working. Because trust me, Uganda is not the only country where artists are not working.
So, Fiona Mugwera, that takes us to the other question, whether or not the Uganda Musicians Association is a stunted organization that can deal with the interests of all artists, including those in the fine arts.
If artists believe in the association, everything will be fine. If artists come together as a team for a common voice, everything will be done.
Okay,